All right, so in this video, I'm gonna show you guys how to put together a drum set. I have a lot of students that have asked for this video. Hopefully it's helpful for you guys. Also, if you dig this video, please like, subscribe, and also check out my book, Tactical Drumming Groove Survival Guide, for all ages, all levels of drummers. And you can get drumming resources at my website, tacticaldrumming.com. All right, so the goal of this video is to show you how to put a drum set together. And I'm gonna try to do it fairly quickly, and obviously pause the video wherever you need to. I'm gonna start from what I've seen my students get, where they basically get drums in just in a box, and the heads are off and everything. So I'm gonna start there, and then we're gonna kind of expand out on the kit, so they have total understanding. So let's jump into it. So the first thing we're gonna do is actually just start with how to put a head on. So I have this tom because I notice a lot of kits will actually come in the mail just in a box, and it's pretty simple. So all you're gonna do is you're gonna take the kit or the drum, and you're gonna stick the head on it. And then from there, now one of the things I like to do is I know that this right here is actually gonna be the front. So I like to put the Evan sign towards the front so that people, one, can see the badge, or the Remo, whatever brand head, or it might be the generic head that comes with the set, but basically push that out. Then the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually take this. You might already have a mount on the side here, but this Gretsch Catalina kit has this type of mounting system. And all you're gonna do is line these up with the lugs here. And the lugs are right here. And so what we're gonna do is we got the head, stick the head on, stick the rim on the drum, right? And then from there, we're gonna take all these rods and we're actually just gonna stick them in. And the rods are right here, and there's a washer, and you wanna put that washer on each of the rods. Now on this one tricky thing is I am gonna put this on there, that mounting system, right, where I'm just gonna push it through, and then it's just gonna sit, this floating system right here. Put it on there, blah. Boom. And then from there, I'm just gonna go all the way around the drum. Most of these will be a little bit easier because the mounting system is probably on the side of the drum, kind of like this floor top. So anyway, so what I'm gonna do first, get these screws on, and what I like to do for tuning, now what you'll need for sure is a drum key. Now this is a very large drum key. There's a drum key that usually comes with the drum set, and they're pretty small. There's a whole bunch of different drum key types. They all work fine. So just use the one that you have. If you play a lot, something like this might be worth your time. But anyway, so what I do is I hand tighten them. And when you tune a drum up, so for this case, I'll show you kind of some basic tuning. These are a little bit trickier because of this. So some basic tuning I'm gonna do a little bit. So what I'm doing is I'm just hand tightening them, right? Bring it down to where it's not gonna move anymore. And you'll notice on the drum right now, hand tighten, it actually doesn't sound very good. It'll make kind of like a thuddy sound, right? There's not really much tone to the drum. And so all I'm gonna do from there is actually just tighten it up just a little bit. So then and now I'm using what's called the star formation. So I hit one and then I go across. Because these hoops are made out of die cast, this keeps them from bending. And I'm not gonna tighten this thing up too crazy much, right? But then if I just tighten it up a little bit, right, you can hear that there's quite a bit more tone, right? And then if I do it even a little bit more, and of course this is a little bit personal preference, just don't crank it too high. Listen to your favorite band and try to match what their drum sound is. All right, so from there, we've got this is ringing a little bit right now, but then we've got decent sounding drum, right? Lots of tone, sounds pretty good. Okay, so we're gonna take this, that's how you put on all the heads on the kit. The only difference is on the bass drum, there's these little claws. The claws just go over the side. You stick the rod in, and then you, again, hand tighten it, and then slowly tighten it up. The tension on the bass drum will be quite a bit less. And also, when you're doing the bass drum, you'll wanna put a pillow or something inside to kind of mute it. So let's get the drum set set up. So saying that we already put everything into or put all the heads on, what I like to do is obviously first thing is we're gonna start with the throne. And the only thing with the throne is basically there'll be a top, and then you're gonna just stick it on there. Typically, there's two different types of thrones. One is like a swivel system where you spin it like this one, and it'll go up and down. So if I do this, the other type is where it just adjusts up and down. And basically, you just tighten these wing nuts and stuff, and that'll get it done. All right, so now the first thing I like to do personally, I set my throne, right, the seat, and then I like to take the bass drum and I like to set that. So once I got the bass drum sounding, and the bass drum should sound kind of like this. I'm gonna use a stick on it. I know it's kind of weird, but just to get the tone, right? This one actually uses an Evan EMAT head, which has lots of padding. What I recommend, especially if you got just a kit out of the box with, I guess, the initial heads, the generic heads, just throw a pillow or a blanket or something in there. It'll mute it down so it has a low kind of short frequency. Right, from there, I'm gonna put that bass drum out, and then I'm gonna actually use this thing right here. These are called the spurs, and I'm gonna put the spurs out. Now there's some variation in what people like. I personally like to have the bass drum fairly flush to the ground and a little bit up. And this can be adjusted right here, up and down the spur with a drum key. So I'm gonna take this, put these two spurs down. Once I get it, bam. All right, so once I've got that out, right, you can see that it's got a little bit of an angle up, but not a lot. You don't want to overdo it. And then I'm going to adjust that. So if I imagine if I was sitting on my throne, right, my foot is just going to sit nice and parallel with this part of the kit. And then I'm going to grab my pedal, right, and in this case, so a beginner pedal is probably going to have a little wing nut right here that's going to tighten it. But this part right here actually just connects to the bottom of the rim, right? And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you on this side, right? So if I take it, there's a little lip right here, and that lip goes right there. Now please note, this is the resonant side of the head, so you wouldn't normally put the pedal on there. So that's gonna actually happen on the back side, and I'll show it to you. I'll actually flip it around so you can kind of see it. So what I do is I'm just going to take this right here. I put that, connects right here. And then usually there's a wing nut here. On this one, it's a little fancier. There's a thing on the side, and that's connected. Now, one thing to note is because the hoops are wood, usually you wouldn't carry the bass drum or you'd actually remove it. But in this case, I'm just going to kind of pick it up gently, move it around, right? And that is all pretty much set. So once I got my pedal on there, I'm gonna make sure it feels right. It's not too bad, right? Not too bad. So now that's set. Might want to tilt it a little bit more. From there, what I like to do is actually set my snare drum, right? And so I'm gonna take my snare drum stand, which looks like this, and pretty much the top of the snare drum stand just opens up. The bottom is a tripod. So I'm gonna open that up on the bottom. Should be fairly self-explanatory. Now all these stands might actually be in pieces, and so they might actually be in two pieces like this. Pull this out. So if it looks like this, you're just gonna take this part, stick it in, boom. And then what you wanna do is, the snare drum is kind of like the center of the drum set. Think about, like, historically, basically this all comes from like marching bands and stuff in New Orleans. And so they were taking, like, snare drum, bass drum, cymbals, and adding them in. So what ends up happening is you're just gonna take that snare drum, right, stick it on here on this stand, right? And then this is actually a different snare drum than what's normally on the kit, but it's a nice snare drum. All right, so I'm gonna I'll put that on there. This one's a little bit high. Make sure that's a little bit offset. There you go. And so basically the snare drum's just gonna sit in that cradle, and once it's there and all set and ready to go, then it is all set for me. And then I'm going to actually now bring my seat up a little bit so that, that feels right. And what I like to do is I like to take the sticks, and then I should be able to pretty much, on my kit, I'm gonna adjust a teeny bit here, I should be able to have the snare drum nice and centered, right? I'm gonna bring my hands out. It's actually a little bit crooked. So when it's crooked, there's like usually little things that you can adjust from left to right, side to side. In the case of this one, right, back and forth, boom. And then once I've got that adjustment made, I usually have a tiny bit of tilt so that my hands will stick out. Right, and then already I can. Cool, so that's set up. That's nice and straight. The snares are going straight back and forth. And again, with the heads, you would put it on the same way as the stuff that you saw earlier. Now, what I like to do next is actually set the hi-hat up. And the hi-hat is right here. And the hi-hat usually comes in a few different pieces. So the first part is the bass. And a lot of times when you get them out of the package, they're actually, this part's disconnected, right? So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take this part, you squeeze it, you put it into the bottom. Then I like to undo the bass. And then what I usually do is I'll set it where it's up a little bit, and then I just push it down, and so that everything sits flush. So we'll do that again. Basically, everything's up high, but you want the pedal, this part right here, to actually touch the ground. So I push it down. Once that's set, then I'll tighten that up. Then right here is the rod that will go inside, and all you do is screw that right in. Easy enough. Right, once that's nice and tight, and it's just hand tightened. Then you're gonna take this part right here, right in the neck there, and you're gonna put that on. And then we're gonna set that up so it's ready to go. Tighten it. Basically, remember all these little wing nuts need to be tight. Now, this right here is called the clutch. And so we're gonna grab our hi-hats, which are right here. So you'll have two of them, and they'll actually say pretty much on every type, whether they're varying, from, different brands and different qualities. This one says bottom, this one says top, right? The bottom's just a little bit thicker. So you're gonna put the bottom on, and then you're gonna take the clutch, undo it here, and then there's two pieces of felt. You're gonna make sure one of the felts is on the top. You put it on take the clutch like this, put the hi-hat out upside down, put that other piece of felt back in, and then you take this bottom nut, and then you're gonna screw that on. Now, one of the tricks with this is you want it to be, there's variation in how people like it. Some people like it really tight, some people like it a little bit loose. But I would actually argue, you see there's a little bit of play there, but the most important thing is what you're gonna do, once you get the hi-hat on there, you're gonna take your foot on the pedal, because that's what the hi-hat is. It's basically to adjust the cymbals up and down. You're gonna bring it down just a little bit, and then you're gonna take this, tighten the clutch, the wing nut on the clutch, which is attaching to the rod, and now, right, now you've got a great hi-hat. So then you can, right? And now you're pretty much set and ready to go there. All right, from there, what I like to do now is we're gonna set up the floor tom. I'll show you how that thing gets put together. Pretty simple. So I have this completely tuned way low. You put the head on just like we did on the tom. And then, but one thing I like to do with the floor toms, now sometimes there will be what's called a low rack tom, so there will be like a mounting system. But in this case, I'm going to show you a regular floor tom. And then if you have a rack mounted tom, it'll be the same as what I'm going to show you here. But all we're going to do is we've got the floor tom, and then the key thing to note with the floor tom is that this part right here, which is gonna hold the legs, they're gonna be on the bottom, right? So this is the top of the head, the batter head, and then these are on the bottom. So what you do is you just put these in upside down. I like to mount it upside down, put it on the ground, slightly adjust it, put all three in. Grab this one real quick so you can see it a little bit easier. Right, so you're gonna put that in there. Wow, these will get a little bit wonky. There you go. See it? All right, there you go. And then tighten up those wing nuts, pretty much. Right, and then you're just gonna put it around. Again, like I said, I like to have those Evans. Now right now you can see it's kind of crooked. We want everything to kind of move into the drum set. So what we're going to do is we're going to adjust the floor tom so it's pretty much parallel with our snare drum. And it's going to have actually a pretty similar angle. So it's going to sit right about there. Right? Might be a little bit extreme. There you go. And I've got those Evans kind of pointed out. Got the badge right there. Right now, this one's going to sound pretty bad because I didn't tune it up. Well, it's not too bad. A little bit of overtone. So when that happens, I'm going to grab my key And all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make any minor adjustments to the head till it pretty much comes to the sound that I want it to be, right? So I might adjust it up, I might adjust it down, right? So that, right? So it sounds the way I want to. It's got a little extra overtone right now. Okay, cool. So then, that's actually, it means it's a little bit too much drum head going on there. But you'll notice again, I'm using that star formation the whole time. And I'm just trying to make sure, also checking for wrinkles. Okay, cool. So from there, once we've got that on, we're gonna put the tom on. So we're gonna grab this mounting system right here, right? Which is the Gretsch mounting system. And I am going to place it right here. And Gretsch's is unique. This is designed to be a 4-piece kit, right? Snare, bass, floor tom, high tom. A lot of times there will be 2 of these on most drum sets, and then there's a point in this, which is for a cymbal. So it's a little bit, usually there will be a cymbal position on the mount, but basically you're just sticking the mount right down into the center, get it at a decent height. And then we're gonna grab our tom that we tuned earlier, and we're gonna put that right on here. Now, this is a little bit tricky because you want to avoid getting dings. And I'm actually gonna show you, because this is a set that some of my students use. There's a bunch of dings right there, right, from it hitting the snare. That's something that you want to avoid. So what I do is, so once we get the head on here, and I'm going to adjust it up a little bit, gives me a little bit of flexibility. Now right now it's a little bit extreme angle, so I make the adjustment at the ball joint right here. And now one of the things that is kind of key with these drums is you want them not to be too high. So you don't want it to be way up. So when a player is playing, they want to be able to move kind of quickly. Fairly quickly to the toms. And so what I like to do is I find that spot that's a good angle, and you'll notice if I bring my stick up, the angle is not extreme, it's not flat, right? It's a natural angle where the stick is, and it naturally goes over it. If you go too extreme, it'll actually beat up the heads and they'll create little dents, and that kind of kills the head. So keep it at that angle. And then what I do from there is I bring it down just a little bit to where it's pretty comfortable still, but not hitting the drums themselves. And so now this is in. Right. Now the heads are in a pretty good location where I can very quickly move from one drum to the next fluidly. All right, so now next up, we're gonna put on just the cymbals. And with the cymbals, I'm gonna just show you 2. I do wanna show you how the cymbal stands work. So again, tripod. So you're gonna take this, again, out of the box. These might be in various parts, and just like the snare drum, right, you might have each individual part, and then you're just gonna stack these together, and once they're stacked together, adjust them with the wing nut. Now, I'm gonna get up for this part because what I want to do, this is a boom stand, and if you probably have at least one. Typically the ride cymbal does have one boom stand, or at least there's one boom stand for the ride. And so, because it has to go in kind of different positions. And so what I do is I just extend that boom out, checking the angle right here, right? And actually this is gonna have to go a little bit more extreme. Usually not quite that much, but there you go. And then what we'll do is we'll adjust this kind of low. It's gonna be too low. So just basically, you notice I'm just adjusting everything. And there's gonna be a little bit of trial and error with this. Then I'm gonna grab my ride cymbal, which is this big one right here, right? So this is a 20-inch ride. Some new sets will come with like different sizes. Sometimes they'll have like a 18-inch. 20-inch is pretty standard. 22 is probably not a beginner, right? But anyways, they come in different sizes. And all you're gonna do is, so right here, again, we have these 2 pieces of felt. You leave one felt on the bottom, take the cymbal, put it on top right here, boom, other felt on top, wing nut at the top, put it on, excellent. Now, I quickly did that. Now I wanna note, if this is in a weird spot for me, I would just make any adjustments. This is actually in a pretty good spot for me because if I bring my hand out, my ride cymbal should be in a comfortable position. Now, I do want to show you if you're using like a 4-piece set, a lot of times the cymbal will have to be quite a bit higher. And so when that happens, you just kind of try to recreate that same angle, right? So it might go like I might go way up here and have a little bit more extreme angle, right? For like somebody who's playing a 4-piece kit. But the key is, the main thing is that if you'll notice, my hand angle is natural, right? So even if my cymbal's way up here, like say got another tom right here, I'm able to naturally hit the ride, hit the center of the drum cymbal. But in the case of this kit, we're gonna bring this down again so that it works for a 4-piece. And this is actually the spot that I teach my students to put their ride. Make any minor adjustments, and then tighten all those wing nuts. Make sure it's all nice and set, solid. Right, so now we got our ride cymbal. I can reach the bell, I can reach the sweet spot on the ride, right? And then the last thing we're gonna do is put up a crash. And so same thing here with our cymbal stand. Now this one is a boom stand, so if you can use it, but I'm gonna show you this one. I'm not gonna use it as a boom stand. I'm actually gonna use it as a straight stand. And the reason is, beginner kits a lot of times will come with a straight stand. And so with the straight stand, the key is really just finding the right position to put the cymbals. So what I'm doing here, as you can see, I'm adjusting all these different parts. I'm gonna put this at a decent angle, right? So I can see it looks kind of similar to my other cymbals. I'm gonna pull that wing nut off, grab that felt. I'm gonna grab my, I think, 16-inch crash, stick it on there, right? Angle looks pretty good. I could go up, down, put my felt on here, and then the place that I'm gonna wanna put this, is probably right here. Sometimes people will put crashes over here, but for this kind of setup, typically it goes here. There's a lot of variation, but the basic gist is I put that crash about here, make any adjustments, right, so that it sits where I want it to be. And then I'm gonna tighten everything up. And again, just like anything else, so like right now, this is actually a little bit too far away. So I'm gonna bring it a little bit closer. And so that my, again, cymbal, I can play on it, play on the bell, play on the sweet spot. But most importantly for the crash, when I hit the crashes, unlike the hi-hat and the ride cymbal, I actually wanna be able to hit it with the side of the stick to get that crash sound. And that's pretty much the setup of the drums. Everything, the key to the drum set, honestly, and its setup is that everything is natural and able to be hit, right? I've got a good angle on the snare. It serves as my center of the kit. Start with the bass drum, set that up, set the snare, add the hi-hat. Then I'm gonna make sure my floor tom's put in a good spot where I can very easily move to it. Then I'm gonna have my high tom put on there. Then I'm gonna set my ride cymbal, mainly because I'm gonna spend a lot of time using this, right, with most grooves. And then I'm gonna finish off with my crash cymbal. And then if I got a straight stand, I'm gonna have to move the base of the stand to the appropriate spot. I'll play a little something for you on the end, so you can kind of get the feel of how a kit is set up. And that's pretty much it. Here we go.